Raw Talk.
Plenty of things to talk about. I got a couple ideas. One of the first things I wanted to start with was Elizabeth Warren tweeted this week that on my first day as president, I will sign an executive order that puts a total moratorium on all new fossil fuel leases for drilling offshore and on public lands, and I will ban fracking everywhere. So our buddies at the Conservative Treehouse did a really nice job of coming up with a list of the 10 worst, horrible things that will happen as a result of this policy from day one. And I just wanted to kind of go through a few of them and get your thoughts and reactions on them. Obviously, the biggest problem is that right now we've got our own strategic reserve in the ground because we can turn on our fracking and turn off our fracking whenever we want. So we have lots of oil and gas, and we are now the leading global producer of these fuels, and that has afforded us strategic independence and military independence, and has definitely helped us as far as the issues we used to have with reliance on people who hate us for energy that we would need to defend ourselves if they were to attack us. So it has also brought down the price of gas. We've written repeatedly over the last year and a half about how, despite things that have happened in the Middle East with Syria and most recently with Iran, the price of gasoline has barely budged. It has been somewhere between $2.29 a gallon and $2.69 a gallon for regular. And the whole time we've had ships being seized and drones being downed and sabers being rattled. And the reason that price hasn't changed is because of fracking. Elizabeth Warren, the woman with the plan, says, well, my first move is going to be to end that. We're not going to frack anymore. So what does that do? Well, here's a quick list of some of the things at Conservative Treehouse. It immediately hands Vladimir Putin hundreds of billions worth of enhanced Russian energy exports. Oh, yeah, because they really need that money. It supports the regime in Venezuela. It expands the influence of China, their investments in Russian energy, by the way, of which they apparently have a significant sum. It immediately helps the Iranian economy and enhances their stranglehold on power. Geez, I haven't gotten to anybody who's really a friend of ours yet, but that would hurt Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Israel, and Libya. Not all allies necessarily, but still people who are on our side versus the Iranian side. It would return U.S. policy and strategy back to a position of dependence on OPEC, which I just covered briefly. It would raise the cost of everything, not the least of which is gas, heating oil, heating fuel. It would destroy American wages. It would set us back in industrial manufacturing. It would drive jobs out of the U.S. to Mexico and Asia. It would also drive up electricity prices. Would raise the price of gasoline, as they point out, to Obama-era rates when it was up around $5 a gallon by design. And it'll also drive the cost of transportation up. So every good in the world that comes to the U.S. and has to be driven by a truck or on a train or in a plane to get somewhere will cost more, and consumers, especially low-income people, and we'll say minorities because that's how the Democrats would spin it, will lose a significant chunk of money that they may not even have because they've lost their jobs, because on day one, Elizabeth Warren turned us into a country of dependence. Your thoughts?
She hates
Lots
poor
of
people.
thoughts.
Okay.
Well, they always hate poor people when they tax liquor, when they tax cigarettes, when they make it more expensive to do basic stuff that everybody has to do instead of luxury stuff that some of us have to do. They hate poor people. But worse than that, we worry about the balance of payments, about China, about trade, about tariffs. But, the biggest imbalance of trade was oil imports, which were running, if I'm not mistaken, around $700 billion a year in the late 80s and 90s and early 2000s. And they kept saying, well, we have to use less oil. We have to become less dependent. Donald Trump had a different idea, just like Sarah Palin. Why don't we produce our own? Then we don't give a damn. And meanwhile, if we hand back control of the production to the people that don't like us very much, as Steve pointed out, never mind Vladimir Putin, those nice Saudis that will cheerfully hold hands with our oil drilling presidents or appear to make nice with us, finance terrorism. And if we don't give them the money, they can't finance as much.
True, but I also look at it from a governmental standpoint. I think it's quite clear most of this, the members of this pack of progressives would love to be able to put us back in the pickle But I look at it as the totalitarian mask is coming out. We are supposed to have a constitutional republic in which those that we elect are supposed to represent us. The Democrat progressive socialists are rapidly moving, if haven't already arrived, at representing, to governing, to ruling. And there are differences between those three states of being. She can't do what she claims that she can do by executive order, but she's certainly playing to the leftmost part of her party, given that the primaries will be coming up pretty soon. She can stop what's going on public lands, but if leases have already been let offshore, she can't immediately take those out, but she can't stop and just unilaterally say no more fracking, period. It's the same thing with a lot of her other programs. It's the same thing with a lot of these. They want to be the biggest man on campus, but they don't care how they get there or what they're going to do once they get there, other than saying, see, look, I gave you free stuff, without ever saying, yeah, and you're going to pay for it anyways.
Rock Talk.